will run for maximum of an hour. As we await the entry of our guest speaker, let me use this opportunity to take us through the House rules. The first is that we kindly request you to leave your microphones muted until you have opportunity to speak. We would, of course, have Dr. Tokwe Ejeme moderating the question and answer sessions. And that means that if you have not sent your questions by now, you can send them actually to Dr. Ejeme, who is already in the house. We would be inviting distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I'm happy to say that we are ready to commence this highly engaging session. We want to once more appeal that if you are
This meeting is being recorded.
To leave your microphones muted until you're invited to speak. Dr. Ojeme is in the house and will receive your questions if you have questions. You can send them to him. Dr. Ojeme, can you put up your hand so they can identify you?
Greetings, Prof. Sir. I'm identified. My hands are up. Thank you very much. Greetings, professional and guests.
Thank you. At this point, I would want to go straight to inviting of course, the guest speaker is in the house. The president of the institute is in the house. Because we have lost some few minutes, I had wanted to invite the Secretary General of APRA to give the goodwill message, but I think we should go straight to inviting the president and chairman of the Governing Council of the Nigerian Institute of Public Relations, Dr. Ike Neliaku, fellow of the Institute, to introduce the very important guest we have today, who will be speaking to us on this all-important issue of a special study that most of us, I believe, would have read about. But we now have the masquerade, as we say, herself in the house. So she will take us through the report. But the right person to introduce her is a man who is our leader, Dr. Ike Neliaku. Dr. Neliaku, you're welcome. You may please take the microphone. Dr. Jeme, you take over from here with the moderation.
Thank you very, very much, Mr. Vice President. We are deeply grateful for having this.
Your video, sir.
For having this opportunity to be with us this afternoon. We are here to take the NIPR PRCA Ethics and Public Relations Survey report. I had the opportunity of meeting Rain in 2019 at the Rwanda APRA, where she presented this report. I was very, very fascinated, not just for the depth of study that was involved, but for the fact that she had consistently done this over the years for the sake of Africa. For professionals like us, we consider this very important, very unique, very essential to our practice, because it helps us to know exactly where we are on any matter whatsoever and what we need to do to improve the narratives of our profession. Rain is a corporate reputation specialist. She completed her communication management honors degree cum laude at the University of Pretoria in 2001 and completed her MC communication within a year. Rain founded Reputation Matters in 2005 and handpicks and manages several teams that run reputation research assignments and develops communication strategies and plans. She is very proud of the team's accolades of winning SEBA Africa Awards in 2018, 2019, and 2020 for research and evaluation. Rain has mentored several students with their MBA thesis, their submissions at the NIPR Business School in Johannesburg. Rain developed the Repudometer trademark, which is one of the first tools that has been developed to measure organizational reputation. Rain was the chairperson of the Western Cape Public Relations Institute of Southern Africa Committee on the board of Rotary Club of Newlands, responsible for public image and Rotary District Committee. She has received a double Paul Harris for her contributions to Rotary's public image. She is the author of Reputation Matters, Building Blocks to Becoming the Business People Want to Do Business With. Rain is passionate about South Africa and launched a rebag reuse initiative in Hood Bay, teaching ladies from the harbor Imizamo Yethu how to crochet shopping and beach bags made from empty bread bags. These ladies are able to put bread on the table for empty bread bag, from empty bread bags. These are some of the things that she has done. Rain and her team are also passionate about Africa, on ethics and reputation on the African continent for the African Public Relations Association and PRCA UK, presented at their annual conference. Distinguished colleagues, council members, fellows in the House, practitioners, Secretary General of APRA, who has joined us, I would like to delightfully yield to all of us a distinguished sister in Africa who believes in sharing knowledge, who believes in adding value, who believes that the whole essence of life is to what extent you have added value to somebody else's life. We appreciate you, Rain, for accepting to present this report to all of us. And it's now my pleasure and honor to welcome you to the platform of the Nigerian Institute of Public Relations. Here, we do it the best way, the most professional way, and the outstanding, excellent way that it should be done. I yield the floor to you. Thank you. You may have to unmute yourself. You are muted.
Sorry about that. Thanks, Dr. Naliaku. Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction to Vice President, Presidents, doctors, professors. I want to say all protocols observed. Thank you very, very much for the opportunity to be part of your session today. I want to jump straight into it because I know that we have a very short time together, and I think the information is incredibly valuable to share with you. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see it upcoming.
Okay, fantastic. So there we go, perfect. So as Dr. Naliaku mentioned, this is the 5th year. The first 3 years, we just did ethics and the reputation of the African continent for APRA. And then 2 years ago, we introduced the PR landscape as part of the study, which is brought to you by APRA and the PRCA. So just very firstly, thank you so much to everyone who completed the survey, which we're really, really grateful for. Just in terms of the more data we have, the more we can segment it and the more we're able to get to know what's happening on the continent. And one of the things that I'm very grateful for is that we had quite a large amount of responses from Nigeria, which gave us the opportunity to actually unpack a little bit more of the Nigerian landscape as well. So I'm going to jump right into it. Let me just see what's happening here. Okay. I think my system's a little bit slow. What I'm going to do, if you'll forgive me, I'm going to put my camera off. I just think that might help. Okay, so I'm going to give you the background, the purpose, and the objectives again very quickly because I want to get into the results side of things. So as I've said, the objective is first and foremost the ethics in Africa, replication of previous studies, and I've already mentioned this. I want to jump into the response rates. So as you can see, this year, 2024, we had the most responses across the board. And I'll show you as well, unpack that in a second, of who were the people that responded. I think each year we do have quite a big drive, and we request everybody to complete the survey so that we can have more and more responses. So this year, majority was from South Africa, and then very grateful for the responses from Nigeria and Zambia. As you can see, 15% of the responses came from Nigeria. So if we have a look at the demographics of the type of people that answered, majority 58% female, 41% male, with 1% being a disability. And just, yeah, so I think that there's a big opportunity there that we can get more people in the industry. 35 to 44-year-olds were the majority in terms from an age point of view. And then if we have a look at the 32% of the respondents who answered work for smaller agencies. So there's about 2 to 5 people who they work for, and they work within the PR and communication agencies. So we can definitely see that there's a move, or there's many more smaller agencies that people are working for. Most are within the media and the marketing industry, with law, science, energy, water, public relations being seen as the other. There's been some national government, education, and training. And then this is what I wanted to also just zoom into. If we have a look at the people, the responses that we got, were from communication managers, chairmen, CEOs, managing directors, founders. So these are the top of the industry in terms of position wise. And I think this is very, very crucial that we got the feedback from these level of individuals. So even though the response rate wasn't huge, the fact is that we got very, very high, highly positioned people to share their knowledge and insights, which we are very, very grateful for. If we have a look at ethics in Africa, if we're going to unpack that first. So what we've been doing over the last 3 years is to have a look at ethics from an individual level, what drives that, versus what does ethics mean from an organizational level, and what does it mean from a country level? So if we have a look at the drivers of ethics, what are the drivers from an individual level? It is principles of good behavior and integrity. From an organizational level, it's the values of that organization and the reputation. And country level, it's the rules and regulations and anti-corruption. But what I want to show you specifically is we segmented it further for Nigeria. So from an individual level, the Nigerian responses were specifically saying that the drivers for ethics from a Nigerian point of view are principles of good behavior. From an organizational point of view, it's values. And from a country level, it's also values. So I think that's also just always important to keep that in mind when we have a look at what do the ethics mean. We asked the question, have your ethics been compromised in the last 12 months? So I do have the 2023 results here at the top, but here the 2024 results show that 80% say the ethics have not been compromised compared to 65% for the previous year. I do also just want to unpack this here because I want to get to Nigeria and Zambia. We've grouped from a Nigerian point of view, 61% indicated that they have not been compromised when it comes to the. So that is. So that's quite a little bit lower than the overall results. Then if we have a look at, yes, my ethics were compromised and I took action against it, was 22%. And then 17% indicated, yes, my ethics were compromised, but I did not take action against that. So I think this is also a valuable figure, and it's what I think would be even more valuable is next year to compare that year on year, because ultimately, obviously, we want to say ethics haven't been compromised, and then also if they have been, for people to take action. I think that's one of the big key areas which needs discussion, unpacking, which we need things to be in place. Is what's that accountability in place when ethics are compromised? What does that mean? What channels are available to report it? But also, what is that accountability? Because it's all good and well to report it, but if no action is taken, then that is something to be mindful of. Then we asked, has your organization ethics been compromised in the last 12 months? So again, here, if we unpack Nigeria, 50% of the respondents indicated that their organization's ethics had been compromised, of which a quarter, 25%, said they were compromised, but they took action. But also a quarter indicated that, yes, it was, but they didn't take action. And I think that's a crucial part, again, in terms of making it possible to record when unethical things happen, and it to be a non-negotiable and to have very severe consequences in place. And then we also look, so as I said, we look at the individual, company, and country level. From a country level, if we look at overall, the picture is generally very different if we look at country level. So here again, 63% indicated the country's ethics had been compromised, but had not taken action. 26% said, yes, my country's ethics were compromised, I took action. And only 11% indicated that any non-ethical behavior. We then asked the question, within the the last 12 months, have you been asked by someone or made the decision to act in an unethical way to gain media coverage, clients, projects, or leverage? And I think that's a particularly important question, specifically for our public relations industry across the continent. So if we have a look at the last year, it was 77% who said no. And this year, 85% indicated no, which I think is really, really, really phenomenal. 12% indicated yes. But I do want to get to, if we look at Nigeria, 89% indicated that they were not approached for any unethical ways to get media coverage, clients, projects, or leverage. And I think that's a very, very positive picture. That's even higher than the average. So that's phenomenal. Which I do want to highlight, 8% indicated, I'm not sure if my actions were unethical, which I often then just think to myself that if you're unsure if it's unethical, then I think it's better to err on the side of it being unethical. So you kind of want to put it the unethical with being the ethical question. The next thing I want to get into, I don't want to go into too much detail with this because I think that there's a lot of information. I'm sure this presentation would be made available. I'll happily share it. I mean, NIPR are part of APRA, so you would have access to this presentation as well. But I wanted to just share, when we look at a reputation, but also when we look at ethics, it's all good and well to say we have an ethical statement, or we're assigned to ethical codes of conduct, and it sounds good. But ethics needs to be in the DNA of the person, the organization, of the country. It's in every component of that business. So when we unpack and look at a reputation, at ethics, it needs to be the driving force for the business. It needs to be the driving force in who are the leadership. Do they lead by example? Are they ethical? It's the driving force who enables the management to do the right thing. It plays a role in who are we going to do business with? Because if our partners and suppliers do unethical practices, it's going to negatively impact on how we conduct business, on how we are seen. Ethics needs to be the driving force on how we're sustainably giving back to those who are less fortunate. It's the driver behind being transparent with our financials, very, very importantly. It's in the quality of our products, and it's how we communicate. So again, this table is the overall view, but I want to get through to Nigeria. I'm not sure if you can see there's like a red cross on my screen now, which I'm not entirely sure why it's there. But so it doesn't mean that that's been crossed out. But I think just what I wanted to show here across the board is the question was, in your opinion, in your organization, do ethics prescribe to being in like the core of how you do business, your leadership, the decisions that you make, who you partner with? And mostly it is within the yes area. I think where there's the biggest highlight, where the no came through, was from a financial matters point of view. So I think it would be good to just take note of that, to highlight that that's a core ethical issue which is dealt with within businesses. Then we asked the question, so this is a very interesting question. My organization compares above average with regards to ethical business conduct. We also asked, my country compares above average compared to other African countries. So this was last year's view. I wanted to show you this year. So my organization compares above average with regards to ethical business conduct compared to similar organizations on the African continent. And 89% of the Nigerian responses indicated yes, above average. When we asked, my country compares above average regards to ethical business compared to other African countries, it scored 64. So 89% compared to 46 overall, compared to 91, sorry, my apologies, 91. So slightly lower than the average of the overall, and 64 is 10% higher than the average overall. So again, it's that perception, because when it comes to a reputation, when it comes to what builds a reputation, is the relationships, ethics being a core value in how to build relationships. And a reputation is built on relationships. So I think this is also key when it comes to the perceptions of how we see ourselves compared to other countries on our continent. Then again, we asked, again, this was the overall questions. I don't want to go to too much detail. I want to get to the PR landscape side of things. Again, this is available, will be made available. I think this was a very important question as well. How ethical is PR regarded in your country? So overall, so if we compare last year to this year, there's marginally more people who have responded, slightly higher, with between 6 and 9, and slightly higher. And then from a Nigerian point of view, mostly a 6 out of 10, with it being slightly higher there. So I think this is very crucial information as the NIPR for your, to obviously from an industry point of view. If we then have a look at the state of public relations in Africa, is here we haven't unpacked it per country. This was very much an overview across the board. The primary, hello, sorry.
Okay, so Kaji Sama.
Is there a comment or question?
No, please go ahead.
So the primary function of public relations, okay, thank you. So the primary function, we asked, what's your primary function when it comes to PR within your organization? And 61% said that. So you'll see that these percentages don't add up to 100. There wasn't just one option. So people could choose more than one question, more than one answer. But the majority of the function is communication strategy development, reputation management, so it's communication strategy development, followed by media relations, then corporate public relations, and then reputation management. In your experience, how would you describe PR standing in the boardroom? And I think this is one of those really crucial feedback things that we see is 45%, the role of PR and communications is still not appreciated at boardroom level. But then what's equally interesting is that 30% of CEOs, business leaders, rely on PR counsel more than ever. And I think this is still very, very worrying, that PR is often seen as very reactive. Only when there's a crisis, a reputational risk, that PR is called on. And I think that's a very, very crucial aspect to take into consideration. And I think what's just as important is, I think what's very important is we can't see the ethics side of this survey to be mutually exclusive from the PR landscape section of the survey. They are not, they are mutually inclusive. They have to be seen as one. So having somebody that is ethical within the public relations space, who assigns to the ethical code of conduct, who drives ethics, because I think people within the PR positions play a very crucial role in getting that message internally and externally, but it's everybody's responsibility to have that person around the boardroom table to keep the leadership accountable in their ethical ways. It's a non-negotiable. It's absolutely crucial. So I think this is still a very worrying diagram that we are seeing, that there isn't sufficient representation of PR, of communicators around the boardroom table. We then also said which PR activities gained or lost importance over the last 2 years. So this was quite interesting, that what has become more important is reputation management, crisis management, and then the digital social media side of things. And I think that links very much, and we all are seeing a big player when it comes to artificial intelligence. So I'm rather convinced we're going to see a bigger increase in that. What's become less important, and I mentioned this at the conference as well, I do find this, I want to say, I found this very, very, very concerning, that people are saying ethics is becoming a lot less important. But I mean, let's hope that ethics is becoming so part of everybody's life that we are all working in an ethical way that it's, I don't want to say it's less important. So this actually really does disturb me a little bit when I see this. Sales and promotions, providing information, event planning, we can kind of understand that. But I think the biggest red flag here that's becoming less important is the ethical side of things. If we have a look at the qualifications, because we ask the respondents, please identify what your qualifications are, because I think that also helps to drive APRA, PRCA, NIPR in terms of what, and I'll get to the training question as well, what are the requirements out there? But just out of interest, the top qualifications for PR professionals are bachelor degrees. And then just out of interest, 15% specified other qualifications not listed, and getting qualifications to get qualifications within the PR industry. If we have a look at the training, recommended training, because we said, what training would you recommend is needed for the profession in your specific country? And again, this is an overall view of everybody's feedback. It's communications and strategy development, which isn't that surprising, seeing that most PR practitioners said that is their core function, is strategy development. But again, I think this is very valuable to make sure that our associations, our industry associations, are aligning to the training that's being given to what's being required. Then crisis management and reputation management. And this is, again, an interesting ethics management that comes up, although it was mentioned as it's becoming less important, but I do think it's crucial that ethics management is here. So that's really good. And then corporate PR that has come to the fore. And then also just what PR professionals are interested in. Again, a strategy, it aligns very much to the items listed above. But here also very, very importantly, digital and social media, which would include the AI component of things. So if we have a look at PR and communication in Africa, navigating the challenges and opportunities, we ask the question, is the industry recession proof? And two-thirds, 62% indicated yes, with only 14% no and 23% not sure. And it's a 6% increase from last year. So I think people are feeling a lot more positive as well when it comes to this area. I think the next thing, which is very, very, very important as well, and it just interlinks with so many other of the components of this research, is what's the biggest challenge? And the biggest challenge, 66%, the reduction of budgets. And I find that very, very worrying. And I think, as I said at the conference as well, and 58% say poor measurement. I think one of the first things that we tend to see that goes is the budgets for public relations. And that's very, very worrying, because your public relations person, your communicator, is the person who has to communicate of what's happening within the organization, internally, externally. So we cannot be cutting budgets. We cannot be cutting budgets and not having those people around the boardroom, PR experts around the boardroom table. So that is really, really a very worrying aspect of this. 42% inability to recruit good staff. And I think that's, again, where the training is absolutely crucial. And on the same percentage, keeping up with new tech and innovation. Again, the AI aspect, that there's many, many conversations around that. Then to jump into potential risk of relying on AI in the industry, 23% expressing the moderate concerns over AI. So, literally most people giving it a 5 out of 10. So being concerned, being aware of it, being mindful of it. But I think a key aspect that came through at the NIPR conference, that came through from many discussions, is it's a tool that's not going to go away. It's like adopting a computer many years ago. It's there to help us to do things even better, even faster. But I think the most crucial aspect of all of it is we still need humans to do the work. People want to do business with people. They want to do business with people that they trust and that they resonate with. So that's absolutely crucial in terms of keeping that in mind. And then from an AI point of view, which is a whole discussion on its own, is to how do we ethically use it, incorporate it into our PR practices? Do we have those policies and those procedures and the governance in place to do that? The future implications of AI, 56.7%, AI could augment existing practices, but not completely replace human involvement. So I think it's just what I mentioned of still needing that human interaction. And I think a very key thing that I heard at the NIPR conference is what you put in is what you put out. So you cannot put junk into the AI to try and get something that's brilliant out. It still needs to be driven by really good content. And then 28%, almost a third, AI could revolutionize the industry and transform traditional practices. And then to a lesser extent, AI could take a lot of work away from PR professionals and is a threat to the industry. So I think this picture is definitely telling us fewer people are seeing it as a threat. It is a tool to use, but maybe making sure that we use it to the best ethical way that we can. So just in conclusion, because I do want to leave enough time for discussion, for questions, the future is bright and promising. So these are some of the responses that we got, the verbatim responses. PR should drive ethical businesses, which will drive ethical countries. And I think it all starts with the individual, and in the ethical individual driving individual ethical companies for ethical countries, which then in the long run is going to drive and improve ethics across the country and the economy. It will be linked to that. So due to rife corruption and mismanagement in both public and private sector, there is great potential and possible high demand for reputation management in Africa. There's a great need for effectively measuring, managing, and building reputations. With so much that social media influence on our day-to-day lives, the future of reputation management will be a lot of work to handle. And then although the road ahead is long to building an ethical continent, PR has a big role to play. And I believe there's a long way to go in terms of reputation management across the continent. But progress is being made in terms of public relations, senior execs being seen as trusted advisors and working at the C-suite level. So even though there's many challenges, there's so many opportunities. And I think it goes back to PR as an industry. We need to PR ourselves even better. I think sometimes we tend to take the back seat, especially when it comes to making our voices heard around the boardroom table. And I think a key issue as well is to get that seat around the boardroom table is the importance of research, is being able to present numbers around the boardroom table. Because if we can speak in numbers, we then directly speak the language of our stakeholders, which are our C-suite executives who generally speak in numbers. They want to know what's the bottom line. So if we can start speaking their numbers, presenting them with research, showing them what our value is, that's going to help us to be heard and to get that seat around the boardroom table and for them to see our value. So yeah, and now over to any questions and feedback. So I'm going to stop my presentation. I'll put it up again if there's any specific questions or areas to refer to. And I think my camera will work now again, now that I've got the presentation. So happy for any feedback, discussion, questions.
Thank you very much, Rain. You've done so well. This is so expository. Thank you very much. I will now hand over to the Chairman, Education Advisory Board, that's the Vice President of the Institute, for him to continue from here with his team of moderators. Mr. Vice President, please.
Thank you so much indeed, Mr. President. That was an amazing presentation, and I like that everybody could follow. By 118 now in the house, have a few questions to ask within the time frame. So let me invite Dr. Tope Ojeme to coordinate this session.
Thank you very much,
Tope, please.
Sir. Thank you very much, professional colleagues, Mr. President and Chairman of Council, and our great speaker, Rain. That, I think, was, simply put, fantastic. A couple of things to learn. There's a long way to go. Progress is being made. Despite challenges, there are opportunities. We need to PR ourselves and, of course, make our voices heard in the boardroom. Research is key. Thank you very much once again. So this brings us to the opportunity for questions. I'm checking through the chats. If you have any questions, you probably want to send them through the chat. Please do that. Let me also remind us that our very distinguished Secretary General of APRA, Dr. Omoni Pieton, will be speaking shortly after the question and answer session, as I've been directed. So we'll have questions. If you have one, you want to either ask the question directly.
This meeting is being recorded.
Unmute, Mr. Chijoke. And in asking your question, please introduce yourself and ask your question. You're still muted, Mr. Chijoke. You're muted.
Okay. I was able to. Good afternoon.
Okay.
Good afternoon.
Okay, go ahead.
Regina. My name is Chijoke Obioma. I'm a partner with Right Angle Public Relations, and this was very insightful. Straight to my question: would this data analysis and all of that generated, would it have been significantly increased if we had more people participating in taking the survey? Like, do you think that this would be sufficient to give the conclusion for Nigeria and for the other countries you mentioned, for all the things that, all the questions that you asked?
Thank you very much. Rain, if you permit, I'll ask that we take 2 questions so you can answer them in a row, and then we'll take the next set of questions. Is that okay?
Perfect, absolutely.
All right. So we'll quickly take Onwudinjo Anwulika. So Chijoke, it's important to tell us where you're from. I believe you're from the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, just so we know. Right, so that's from Abuja. Onwudinjo, you're next. Please unmute your name, where you're joining from.
The video should be on if you must speak, please.
Yeah, if you must speak, please put on your video, Onwudinjo.
Otherwise, you skip the individual.
Okay, video is on now. Onwudinjo, you can now unmute and ask your question. Please, your name, where you're joining from, and straight to your question. Thank you.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for holding this session. And Regine, thank you for your presentation. It was very insightful. My name is Anglika Ongunjo. I work with FX as a PR analyst and I'm based in Abuja here. Okay, so I think that there's been a lot of conversations around the ethical use of AI and its application for multiple industries, right? And I think that typically, whenever we hear about the use of AI for PR professionals, there's always the idea of we might not be ethically using it. I want to know your perspective on how we can, because I'm for the use of AI, right? So how can we ethically integrate AI into some of the things that we do as PR professionals?
All right, thank you very much. So Rain, it's all yours now. We'll take the next set of questions after answers to this too.
Perfect. Thank you. I think those are brilliant questions. So thank you very much. So, Mr. Chijoke, we can most certainly do with so many more responses, to be quite honest. If we look at how massive our continent is. So I think statistically speaking, we can make some deductions with the stats that from the responses that we have, which has been very valuable because they're very similar to the overall results. So I think from a research point of view, we don't have to speak to every single person within the profession, but we can most certainly, I think this was the first year that we were able to have more than 50 responses from Nigeria to be able to unpack it a little bit more. So the more responses we have, so ideally, the ideal would be if we could have at least 300 responses per country within the PR industry, that would give us an even better insight because that statistically speaking is I want to say a lot more accurate than obviously the figures that we're working with now. So I think this is also a massive call for next year that once we do this is to please complete it and to send it through because I think that's the only way that we actually also going to learn about each other and how we can, because a big component of this research is that we can understand our fellow countries on the continent even better. So we can only do that with the data. So yeah, very, very good question. And I think it's a big call for everyone's support. And we want to also see how can we make it even more relevant for all the participating countries. And then the next one on the ethical use of AI, I think that's also, it's such a pressing question. I think it's really, really important. And I thank you for raising that. And I actually want to suggest that in itself needs to be a separate session with within NIPR, where that maybe gets unpacked a little bit further in terms of what is the policy when it comes to ethically using it as an industry within Nigeria. What are those policy guidelines in terms of transparency? When do we use it? When do we say that we've used it? And different aspects. And maybe that is also a guideline that needs to be put in place, because I think that was something that we also did have a discussion with at APRA, and that's also part of being part of APRA to bring that to the members of the different countries. So I think that's very, very valuable, and I think that would definitely be a very good conversation as a next topic to have. Any more? Does that answer?
Can you unmute? So I'll take the next questions afterwards. Hey, can you unmute and put on your video?
Yes.
You need to put on your cameras, please.
Okay. I think I'm on. Yes.
Good. So please go ahead. Tell us where you're from, your name, where you're joining from, and straight to your question. Thank you.
And Ogun State. I listened rapidly to the conversation, especially the presentation by I guess very straightforward question. Last year there'll come a time when picketing would begin, especially has started with quacks around institutions. But I want to ask, how was this enshrined in the country where she's coming from, I guess South Africa? How was it able to be enshrined constitutionally, and it became given in every organization where, if you don't have a public relation practitioner practicing professionally, such an institution could be picketed, or possibles from this other side want to understand precisely what I'm asking. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Be able to take more questions, but I'll quickly read this one, and I'm hoping you can answer in two thereabouts, because I need to have 2 minutes for Dr. Moni Ibieton to give a short goodwill message. This one says, why do organizations, not multinationals, that have joined the benefits of PR, not promoting the ideals of public relations? It's from Dr. Abraham Olushola Niyi, fellow of the NIPR, and he sent that in from Lagos. So you'd have those two questions to answer in 2 minutes if you can, so I can have two for Dr. Ibieton. Thank you very much, Rain.
Definitely. Thank you. So also good questions. Mr. Ahi, I'm just not entirely sure I'm 100% understanding your question, to be quite honest. So I need to ask my fellow colleagues at NIPR to potentially help with an answer there. I don't know whether I'm going to answer it correctly. And yeah, multinational, I think that's part of the multinational question that's part of PRing itself to have more of a voice when it comes to seeing the value of public relations. So I think that's absolutely part of the crucial aspects. I think there's a lot more that can be said with that, and it can be unpacked a lot more. I am just very, very mindful that our time is coming to an end here. So just also with.
Yeah, you're done.
So one last thing on the multinational, sorry, because I've also just double checked the question that I was answering it. I think what's absolutely crucial, it's part of us we always have to ask for references. We have to PR ourselves. If we've done a good job, we need to get that out there. So we can ask them to help us to promote us. So that's part of it's part of building better relationships, with asking them as well for their help. So again, there's a lot more to unpack there, but over to you. Thank you, Dr. Okiem.
All right. Thank you very much. So I've been given permission to take 2 more questions from the live stream. I guess that will give me 2 extra minutes and give you another 1 or 2 to answer. So this one from the live stream says, in what ways can public relations contribute to social change and development in Africa? And another one from the live stream says, what role does culture play in shaping public relation campaigns in Africa? Yeah.
Thank you so much for that.
I think
that's thank you so much, and I'll try and keep it to a minute as well. So if we have a look at contributing to community outreaches, the first and foremost thing, I think the crux is having core values in place. That is where it all starts, and that is with the projects that you get involved with, the people that you do work with, the CSI assignments. That is going to impact who you do business with, because people want to do business with people whose values they resonate with. And I think that's absolutely crucial, because and just to add to that, I think what's really, really important, especially from a communicator's point of view, it's not just to come up with words that sound great, values that sound beautiful, and there's beautiful posters up that's on the wall. You have to live your those values, because a brand, if we have a look at it, is your behavior, and your behavior is driven by your values, and it's that consistent behavior linked to your values that builds your reputation. So I think that's where we have to start, regardless of what type of project it is. It's to have a look at those values. And I think the second part of the culture question is a brilliant question. And I think that is so important as well. And I think that's where it's also so important to understand sensitivities and respect for other cultures. And I think that's also where it comes into play of understanding the governance, having governance and protocols and policies in place of this is how we do things. This is what we do from a cultural point of view. So one of the examples at the NIPR conference was one of the panel was in order for a big project to take place in their specific country, you have to slaughter a goat, but it has to be done in an ethical way. It has to follow processes. It has to follow procedures. And that is part of the communicator's role, to make sure that those policies, those governance aspects are put into place, and that we can actually communicate that, to have those sensitivities, to respect each other, respect how things are done in different countries.
Thank you very much once again, Rains. And with that, I believe that I have the privilege to say we've come to the end. I don't have the authority to do this. Professor Dandaura, who probably, Professor Dandaura, would that be correct, sir?
Very correct, my brother. We will take them. It's just important to mention that we had here about 125 and about 96 people following the live streaming. So it's been a good day, and we're still happy to receive the questions.
All right, thank you very much, sir. So once again, with the permission of Prof, I invite Dr. Moni Bieto, our very distinguished APRA Secretary General, newly crowned, freshly minted. Welcome, sir.
Your microphone, sir.
How you doing? Regine, good to see you. Hi, how is South Africa?
Wonderful to see you, Doctor.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you. The president of NIPR, the vice president, distinguished colleagues, it's my singular privilege to participate in this forum as a new president. Tope has described me. I just want to say that, Mr. President, NIPR, to extend thanks to Regine for the consistency, for the delivery. There is so much that we have gleaned from the presentation. It's amazing how much we are losing by discountenancing research, because research gives insight into what we need to do. And we can only make progress when we share what the result of studies is. And so I thank you, Regina. I thank the president of NIPR for being consistent, with the council in driving what I describe as a renaissance in the public relations practice in Nigeria, and the kind of collaboration that we're having here. It's so amazing. It can only make practice better. And so APRA, on behalf of the Executive Council, I want to thank you, Regina. I want to thank NIPR. I want to thank all participants. May I just say this? Each time that we have survey and we are encouraged to respond to survey, if we do not do so, we lose so much. And I'm going to give one very clear example to this. I don't know how many of us saw Nigerian Idol show last night to see how fantastic guys who were not voted, by the audience had to be evicted from that participation. It is equivalent to what happens in research. When questionnaires are thrown at you and you do not respond, you lose value, because what you need to drive success in your organization, you couldn't get it from insight that research will give. And so I want to appeal to us to always participate in surveys to ensure that we are able to improve, by adding value to our profession. And I want to just thank APRA once again and NIPR, because the question of education has been at the heart of the progress that we have been making. And it's so good to have you here, Vice President of NIPR, who has been chairman of the Education Advisory Board, helping us to pull through in this process. I can't thank you all, but I just want to say, please, let's have more of this. And I look forward to seeing you once again, Regine. Please extend my regards to Robin, to Bridget, and all our folks in South Africa. Thank you very sincerely.
It's back to Mr. President and Mr. Vice President, rather, of the NIPR, Professor E.S. Dandaura.
Thank you so much. Dr. Deme, you've also been very wonderful. I just want to say that my attention has been called to the fact that you actually had a lot more people out there. As it stands now, they have actually 522 that are following us through live streaming. And I think I should share this for you to see, just to be sure. So for us, it's really been great. I don't know if you can see that at the very top, 522. Am I correct?
It came and went.
It came and went. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is it there now?
See.
So that's besides the 120 we have in the house, we have 522. So that tells us indeed that you have extended the reach of this very, very important research report. This also is a confirmation that the series that you actually happen to be our very first guest speaker is widely accepted by both our colleagues here in Nigeria and across Africa, and indeed a few of them also joined from outside the continent. So thank you very much for this time, and we want to ask the participants to kindly just stay on. We are going to have another session tomorrow about the same time. We are taking another report, and the link will be shared shortly. And all you need to do is to register as usual, so you can get the login credentials. And we will be starting 12 noon on dot tomorrow. And we have provision for only 500 in the house here. And that means if you come after that, you may not be able to come in. So thank you very much. We should allow our special guest to retire. Mr. President, you called out the masquerade. I think you should call the masquerade back to the groove. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Vice President. Thank you for also telling our colleagues that tomorrow we have the second day, Mr. Vice President, but I believe that you also have to be thanked, because this is an initiative of Education Advisory Board that you chair. Thank you very much for this initiative. We will have more and more of this as we progress. This is part of the New Dawn philosophy that we have introduced to the Institute. Before Renee goes, I would like her to teach us how to pronounce her name. Being on this platform, I have had Rehin, I have had Regine, I have had Rein, I have had Renee, I have even had Regina. So we must, since we are studying state of ethics report, pronouncing names constitute one of the important ethics in public relations. So please teach us how to pronounce your name so that we can get it right. And thereafter, I will retire the masquerade until we take the 2025 State of Ethics report from you. Rehin, back to you.
Perfect. Just as a quick background, I was blessed with all the family names. So it's my grandmother's name, and it's pronounced Regin. So it's got a soft G, Regin.
Mm.
If that's helpful.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
President, we must mention that all this was actually at no cost to us. And there is no demonstration of love and interest in sharing that could be more than that. Mr. President, you're still taking the masquerade back. But just to say, you would see that there are lots of comments in the chat room we couldn't attend to. You might also want to take time as you retire to look at those comments. But all of them are indeed commendation and excitement for the contributions you have made this afternoon.
Thank you very much, Vice President. I will also want to use this opportunity because I believe that everyone here is privileged to be part of this exercise. So I would like to give you this privileged information. The Nigerian Institute of Public Relations, in partnership with another firm, has initiated the Reputation Perception Index. It will be flagged off on the 27th of this month. And I am delighted to announce that Rehin is the, I don't want to say resource person, is the mentor. She's the one mentoring this project for us, and we are so grateful to her. I want to thank you indeed for mentoring this project. And on that note, we want to thank everyone on the platform. Vice President, remember that we're supposed to have a technical meeting with okay, we'll take that after this, right?
Yes, the link for tomorrow's event is up there for us. We are actually taking the Edelma Trust Barometer report. So please begin to register now. We have limited spaces here, unless you prefer to go to YouTube and Facebook to follow us through live streaming. But there's nothing better than being in the
house.
Yes, inside the house, so that you can receive it live and direct. So please register now. The link is in the chat room. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. On that note, Mr. Vice President, you can close the meeting at your instance, and then we can have our review with the guest presenter.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. President. Let me request that we can either, in another 2 minutes,
This meeting is being recorded.
we again have another very powerful lady joining us, who says that our mothers and our sisters are really not the ones driving the continent. We're happy about that, and that we would recover as a continent and take our rightful leadership position. Now that we are beginning to have a lot more of our mothers and sisters on the driver's seat. This is a period of driving public relations as a leadership function. And the Nigerian Institute of Public Relations is very happy to be part of the process of driving this on the continent. So please register. And in the next 1 minute, we would request you to kindly exit and return to work, because it's a work day. It's a Monday, remember. Don't forget to take your lunch as you return back to work. Part of keeping to ethics is for you not to use the time you're paid to work to sit here on the Zoom. And that's why we chose the lunch time. So do not exceed lunch
The
time.
recording has
Thank you,
stopped.
and God bless you.